The unexpected messengers. The great crystalline structure pulsed with an eerie, translucent light, consuming everything in its path. Solar systems vanished, reduced to nothing more than cosmic dust and fragmented memories. The Galactic Conclave watched in horror as another civilization flickered and died, devoured by an entity they couldn't comprehend or combat. Commander Zara Vex, lead strategist of the Krillian Confederation, stared at the holographic display, her iridescent skin shifting between shades of deep blue and ashen gray, a clear indication of her mounting anxiety. Beside her, the hologram of Elder Kryn, representative of the Quantum Collective, flickered with nervous energy. "We've lost contact with the Novan colonies," Kryn's voice trembled. "That's the 5th star system this month. These crystalline entities, they're not just consuming. They're evolving, adapting faster than we can analyze them." The massive conference chamber, typically a hub of diplomatic activity, now felt like a tomb of collective despair. Delegates from hundreds of advanced civilizations sat in their specialized environmental pods, their sophisticated technologies rendered utterly useless against this mysterious threat. Zara's tactical mind raced through countless scenarios. Quantum disruptors, molecular destabilizers, gravitational warfare, nothing had even slightly impeded the crystal entity's relentless expansion. Their most advanced weapons passed through the structures like light through glass, causing no discernible damage. "We are approaching extinction," murmured Lyra Tell, the empathic resonance diplomat. Her translucent form wavered, broadcasting waves of collective desperation that rippled through the chamber. "Our entire galactic civilization stands on the brink of annihilation." It was in this moment of absolute hopelessness that an unexpected suggestion emerged from an unlikely source. Professor Endo, a retired xenohistorian from the Stellar Archives, slowly rose from his seat. His aged form, a rare biological entity in a chamber of energy-based and synthetic beings, carried an unexpected weight of wisdom. "We haven't exhausted all possibilities," he stated, his voice calm and measured. "There is a young civilization we've been observing. They're chaotic, unpredictable, and inhabit a planet of extreme conditions. A species that has survived multiple extinction-level events through sheer determination." A murmur of skepticism swept through the chamber. The Krillian delegates exchanged dubious glances. Humans. The species barely capable of interstellar travel. A civilization still wrestling with internal conflicts and primitive technological frameworks. Professor Endo continued, undeterred. "Humans have something we've forgotten. They don't just survive, they thrive in adversity. Their entire evolutionary path is a testament to adaptability. While we develop technologies to avoid conflict, they develop technologies to confront and overcome it." Zara Vex's tactical algorithms began processing this unconventional suggestion. Humans were classified as a Deathworld species, organisms that emerged from environments so harsh, so continuously threatening, that their very survival seemed mathematically improbable. "Their planet tries to kill them every day," Endo explained. "Extreme temperatures, predatory ecosystems, geological instabilities, cosmic radiation. Yet, they not only survive but push the boundaries of what's possible. Where we see limitation, they see challenge." The chamber fell into a contemplative silence. The crystal entities represented a threat beyond conventional understanding, perhaps it would take an unconventional approach to combat them. "A formal request would violate our first contact protocols," Elder Kryn interjected. "They're centuries away from genuine galactic integration." Professor Endo's eyes sparkled with a rare enthusiasm. "Sometimes, protocol must bend when survival is at stake. We're not asking them to join us. We're asking them to save us." A vote was hastily conducted. The results were surprisingly unanimous. Contact would be established. Humanity would be informed of the galactic threat, and their potential role in combating an enemy that had already consumed 5 advanced civilizations. As the first transmission was prepared, encoded with computational complexity that would take human scientists years to fully decode, Professor Endo allowed himself a small smile. Humanity was about to discover they were not alone in the universe, and that the universe needed them more than they could possibly imagine. The crystalline threat continued its relentless expansion, unaware that its greatest challenge was about to emerge from an insignificant blue planet, forged by adversity and defined by an unbreakable spirit of survival. Preparing for the unknown. The first decoded transmission arrived at the Global Strategic Research Center in Geneva, causing an unprecedented level of international cooperation. Dr. Helena Rodriguez, the center's lead xenological analyst, stared at the holographic representation of the alien message, her mind racing with implications. "This isn't a hoax," she announced to the assembled team of scientists, military strategists, and government representatives. The room, typically divided by national interests, now sat in unified silence. General Marcus Thompson, head of the United Earth Defense Initiative, leaned forward. "A galactic civilization facing extinction is asking for our help. They want us to combat a threat we know nothing about." The transmission contained fragmented data, crystalline structures that defied known physical laws, consuming entire solar systems with a speed and efficiency that suggested more than mere physical expansion. It was an entity that seemed to learn, adapt, and grow with each system it devoured. Dr. Rodriguez pulled up holographic models of the crystal entities. "They're not just a static structure. These beings, if we can call them that, demonstrate characteristics of both organic and inorganic life. They absorb, adapt, and propagate in ways our current scientific understanding can't explain." Brigadier Elena Kovacs from the European Space Defense Corps studied the data intently. "Our current weapons would be useless. We're talking about an entity that can consume entire planetary systems. Our most advanced missile systems would be like throwing pebbles at a hurricane." The room fell into a tense silence. The alien transmission implied that humanity's chaotic, adaptive nature might be their greatest weapon. But how do you fight an enemy that consumes everything in its path? Dr. Rajesh Mehta, a quantum physicist specializing in computational biology, spoke up. "We need an unconventional approach. These crystals seem to have a complex internal structure that allows rapid adaptation. Traditional military strategies won't work." A series of rapid-fire discussions ensued. Experts from diverse fields, quantum physics, geological engineering, marine biology, computational science, began to piece together an unprecedented collaborative strategy. "Look at how these crystals operate," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "They're not just consuming. They're integrating, learning. It's almost like a massive, universe-scale immune system that identifies and assimilates any threat." General Thompson saw the strategic implications immediately. "So we can't fight it with brute force. We need to understand its fundamental nature and find its weakness." Over the next weeks, a specialized team was assembled. Not just military personnel, but scientists, engineers, and specialists from fields as diverse as marine ecology, quantum computing, and extreme environment survival. Dr. Mehta's team began developing computational models that mimicked the crystal entity's adaptive capabilities. Marine biologists studied how certain deep-sea organisms survived in extreme environments, looking for parallels in survival mechanisms. "We're essentially trying to out-adapt an entity that specializes in adaptation," Dr. Rodriguez remarked during one strategy session. "It sounds impossible. Which means it's exactly the kind of challenge humans excel at." The Global Strategic Research Center transformed. Traditional hierarchies dissolved. A marine biologist collaborated with a quantum physicist. A deep-sea exploration engineer worked alongside a computational linguist. National boundaries became irrelevant in the face of a threat that could consume entire civilizations. Military training protocols were redesigned. Soldiers were not just taught to fight, but to think dynamically, to see challenges as puzzles to be solved rather than obstacles to be overcome. Brigadier Kovacs implemented a new training regime. "We're not preparing for a conventional war," she told her troops. "We're preparing to outsmart an enemy that learns faster than we can fight." Specialized equipment was developed. Sonic resonance devices that could potentially disrupt the crystal structure. Adaptive computational systems that could predict and counter the entity's movements. Protective suits designed to withstand environments that would kill ordinary humans. As the preparations intensified, the alien transmission continued to provide fragmentary information. Each piece of data was a puzzle, each fragment a potential key to understanding the cosmic threat. The world watched, a mix of anticipation and fear. Humanity was being called to a stage far larger than they had ever imagined. A test not just of military might, but of fundamental adaptability and collective intelligence. In research labs, military bases, and strategy rooms around the globe, a singular thought emerged: we might be outmatched, but we are never outmaneuvered. The crystalline threat was coming. And humanity was preparing to show the universe exactly what they were made of. First encounter. The first contact with the crystal entity occurred in the Epsilon Eridani system, a region once teeming with potential for colonization. Now, it was a graveyard of cosmic proportions. The United Earth Expeditionary Fleet, a collection of specially designed vessels that defied traditional spacecraft engineering, dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The ships looked more like adaptive organic structures than traditional metal constructs, a testament to humanity's ability to reimagine technology when faced with impossible challenges. Captain Diego Ramirez stood on the bridge of the flagship Horizon Breaker, his eyes fixed on the massive crystalline structure that dominated the star system. It wasn't just large, it was alive in a way that defied conventional understanding. Transmission incoming from the Galactic Conclave, Lieutenant Kai Nakamura announced. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the anxious faces of alien representatives. "This is our first real-world test," Dr. Helena Rodriguez's voice came through the communication array. "Every sensor, every piece of technology we've developed is being put on the line right now." The crystal entity pulsed with an otherworldly light. Tendrils of translucent material began to extend, almost like exploratory appendages seeking to understand this new intrusion into its domain. "Defensive Pattern Omega," Captain Ramirez commanded. The Horizon Breaker and its accompanying vessels moved with a fluidity that surprised the alien observers. Unlike traditional military formations, these ships moved like a living organism, adapting, shifting, responding to threats in real time. Dr. Rajesh Mehta's voice crackled through the communication system. "The computational models predict multiple potential interaction points. Watch for resonance patterns in the crystal's molecular structure." The first wave of attack came not as a physical assault, but as a psychic pressure. A wave of pure terror washed over the fleet, a psychological weapon designed to paralyze and overwhelm. But humanity had prepared for this. "Psychological dampening fields activated," Lieutenant Nakamura reported. The ship's specialized neural interfaces pushed back against the psychic assault, turning potential fear into focused determination. The crystal entity seemed to pause, a moment of apparent confusion. It had never encountered a species that could resist its fundamental psychological warfare. "Target identified," called out Weapons Specialist Commander Olivia Chin. "Preparing sonic disruptors." The specialized weapons, developed through a combination of marine biology research and quantum computational theories, fired. Unlike traditional weapons, these were precision instruments designed to target the very molecular structure of the crystal entity. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, microscopic fractures began to appear in the crystal's structure. "It's working," Dr. Rodriguez breathed, watching from the research center thousands of light-years away. "We're actually penetrating its defenses." The battle was unlike any previous cosmic conflict. The human fleet didn't just fight, they analyzed, adapted, and responded with a speed that shocked the alien observers. Each attack by the crystal entity was met not with brute force, but with calculated, intelligent counter-strategies. Brigadier Kovacs, monitoring the battle remotely, observed something extraordinary. "They're learning," she told the assembled scientific team. "The crystal entity is trying to adapt, but our computational systems are adapting faster. The Horizon Breaker took damage, hull breaches, system failures, but continued to fight. Each injury was immediately addressed, each system failure quickly rerouted. It was a testament to human engineering and determination. As the battle raged, something unprecedented happened. The crystal entity began to show signs of confusion. Its adaptive capabilities, so feared across the galaxy, were being challenged by a species that fundamentally understood the art of survival. "We're not just fighting," Captain Ramirez said quietly to his crew, "we're solving a cosmic puzzle." The first encounter was not a decisive victory. But it was something far more important. It was proof that humanity could stand against a threat that had consumed entire civilizations. As the Horizon Breaker pulled back, trailing damage but unbroken, the galaxy watched and waited. The humans had done the impossible. They had not just survived an encounter with the crystal entity, but had begun to understand it. The real war was just beginning. Breaking the impossible. The research center in Geneva had transformed into a near-constant state of controlled chaos. Maps, holographic projections, and complex computational models covered every available surface. The encounter in the Epsilon Eridani system had provided crucial data, and raised even more questions. Dr. Rajesh Mehta stood before a massive holographic display, his fingers dancing across complex neural interfaces. "Look at this," he said to the assembled team of scientists and military strategists. "The crystal entity isn't just a structure. It's a living system with information transfer capabilities we've never seen before." Brigadier Elena Kovacs studied the projection intently. "Can we exploit this?" The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Dr. Sofia Rodriguez, a marine biologist specializing in deep-sea ecosystem communication, noticed something peculiar in the data patterns. "It's similar to how coral reef systems communicate," she explained, bringing up comparative models. "Not through traditional neural networks, but through molecular resonance and information transfer." The team worked in a state of continuous collaboration. Quantum physicists worked alongside marine biologists. Computational experts collaborated with extreme environment survival specialists. The traditional boundaries of scientific disciplines dissolved in the face of this cosmic challenge. Captain Diego Ramirez arrived from the Horizon Breaker, his uniform bearing the scars of their previous encounter. The medical team had patched him up, but the look in his eyes spoke of something deeper, a determination that went beyond physical recovery. "We didn't just survive," he told the team. "We learned something fundamental about this entity." Dr. Mehta pulled up a new computational model. "The crystal structure isn't just consuming. It's trying to understand. Each system it absorbs becomes part of its information network. It's like a massive, universe-scale learning algorithm." The implications were staggering. The crystal entity wasn't just a destructive force, it was an intelligent system seeking to comprehend and integrate everything it encountered. "We need a way to communicate," Dr. Rodriguez suggested. "Not fight, but understand." A radical plan began to take shape. Instead of developing more powerful weapons, they would create a method of information exchange that could potentially disrupt the crystal entity's fundamental communication process. The Horizon Breaker underwent extensive modifications. Specialized quantum communication arrays were installed, devices that could potentially translate the crystal entity's molecular communication patterns into something comprehensible. "We're going to talk to it," Captain Ramirez explained to his crew. "Not with weapons, but with information." The next encounter would be different. Instead of a battle, it would be an attempt at the most fundamental form of communication humanity had ever attempted, understanding an entirely alien form of intelligence. Specialized drones were prepared. Each was more than a weapon, it was a complex information gathering and transmission device. Designed to withstand extreme conditions, they would serve as humanity's first true ambassadors to this cosmic intelligence. Brigadier Kovacs looked at the final preparations. "We're about to do something no civilization has ever attempted. We're going to try to communicate with an entity that consumes entire star systems. The preparation was meticulous. Every possible scenario was computed, every potential outcome analyzed. But the human team knew that their greatest strength wasn't in perfect planning, it was in their ability to adapt in real time. "We're not just fighting," Dr. Mehta said quietly, "we're trying to understand." As the Horizon Breaker prepared for its most critical mission, the galaxy watched. The species that had been viewed as primitive, violent, and unpredictable was about to attempt something unprecedented. First contact wasn't about conquest. It was about understanding. The crystal entity awaited, a massive structure of infinite complexity. Humanity approached, armed with nothing more than curiosity, determination, and an unprecedented willingness to challenge the impossible. Triumph of determination. The Horizon Breaker approached the massive crystal entity with a precision that defied traditional military logic. This was not a battle approach, but a communication attempt that would redefine humanity's understanding of cosmic intelligence. Dr. Sofia Rodriguez monitored the specialized quantum communication arrays, her hands moving with a combination of scientific precision and intuitive creativity. "We're picking up complex molecular vibration patterns," she announced to the bridge crew. "It's not just noise, it's a form of communication we've never seen before." Captain Diego Ramirez stood at the center of the bridge, his posture a mixture of tension and unwavering resolve. "Prepare quantum transmission protocols," he commanded. The ship's systems hummed with a carefully calibrated energy that was part weapon, part communication device. The crystal entity seemed to pause, its massive structure pulsing with an almost curious light. Previous encounters had been marked by immediate aggressive response. This time, something was different. Dr. Rajesh Mehta's voice came through the communication system. "We're translating the molecular communication patterns. It's not trying to destroy, it's trying to understand. Every system it has consumed has been an attempt to comprehend something larger." The bridge crew watched in collective anticipation. Years of preparation, months of specialized training, and weeks of computational analysis had led to this moment. "Transmission initiated," Lieutenant Kai Nakamura reported. What followed was unlike any first contact in galactic history. Instead of weapons or traditional communication, the Horizon Breaker began transmitting a complex series of informational patterns, mathematical sequences, ecological systems modeling, and the fundamental patterns of human adaptation and survival. The crystal entity responded. Not with an attack, but with a pulse of information so complex that it momentarily overwhelmed the ship's computational systems. "It's sharing," Dr. Rodriguez breathed. "Not consuming. Sharing." The massive crystalline structure began to change. Not collapse or attack, but transform. It was as if humanity's transmission had triggered something fundamental, a recognition of a different form of intelligence. Brigadier Elena Kovacs, watching from the research center, realized what was happening. "They're communicating," she said quietly. "We're not fighting. We're understanding." The crystal entity, which had consumed entire civilizations, was now engaged in something unprecedented, a dialogue. Hours passed. The Horizon Breaker hung in space, its systems working at capacities never before imagined. The crystal structure pulsed, shifted, responded. It was a conversation happening at a molecular level, beyond traditional understanding of communication. "We're learning from each other," Captain Ramirez said, a note of wonder in his voice. The galactic observers watched in disbelief. The species they had considered primitive, violent, and unpredictable had done the impossible. They hadn't destroyed the crystal entity, they had communicated with it. As the transmission continued, something extraordinary happened. The crystal structure began to reconfigure. Not to attack, but to transform. It was as if humanity's unique approach, their ability to adapt, to understand, to communicate, had triggered a fundamental change. Dr. Mehta's computational models went into overdrive. "It's changing its fundamental purpose," he reported. "From a consumption system to, something else. A information exchange network. The final transmission was a complex dance of molecular information. The crystal entity, which had consumed entire civilizations, was now sharing its own accumulated knowledge. Humanity had not conquered. They had communicated. As the Horizon Breaker prepared to return, the galaxy watched in a mixture of awe and disbelief. The species that had been considered a wild card, a potential threat, had demonstrated something far more powerful than military might. The ability to understand. The ability to communicate. The ability to transform.